help you?
Hello, it's me, Vinny.
Oh, hey man, I just left you a message.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so just disregard that. I was just calling to let you know. Yeah. So,
Okay, for sure.
yeah. So, yeah, how's things, how you been? It's been a little bit since we had our first meeting. How are things been going?
I don't know, I'm just tired, if you know what that means, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
When you say that, it sounds like there's a bunch of things that come with that word, you know?
right. Yeah, it's just the best word that describes it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did I mention that your mom had reached out to Gabriella
Yeah,
and that she didn't answer. She left her a message, I believe, because it was forwarded to me. Okay, so I did tell you about that. Okay. Yeah. Also, I still haven't gotten an email from the public defender. Just FYI.
Yeah, I pretty much blocked her number and stopped talking to her. I told her she was fired a month ago, so...
Okay.
Because she won't do anything.
Mm.
She's just sitting there. And I'm like, this is serious. You need to do as I ask you. You work for me.
Right.
My taxes pay your paycheck. You know, there's the price tag and then there's the taxes, except I don't get a tax refund each year.
Mm-hmm.
And she just ignores me. She won't listen to a single word I have to say, like most people. And I'm like, you need to file a dismissal to this case. It should have been dismissed the second the DA saw it, and then it should have been dismissed by the judge, and then it should have been dismissed 6 months ago under the United States constitutional right to a fast and speedy trial, with a 6-month deadline starting the second of the arrest. You can't just kidnap people, throw them in a holding cell for a year, and then just be like, oh, no harm, no foul, or try and force them into being guilty for something they didn't do, or isn't even a crime to begin with. And she just ignores me. And this is the second public defender. I've had 3 lawyers on this case. The first public defender, Leah Maloney, and then my mom hired a lawyer, and I fired him too. And then this is my second public defender, so my third attorney. And all of them want to try and give me like a misdemeanor plea deal or something like that for this case. And I'm like, no, you guys are not understanding. You are all more incompetent than I will ever be. Because like my first public defender, Leah Maloney, she raised my competency within the first month. And I sat in a holding cell for 9 months straight. And they finally transferred me to Pueblo. And within a couple of weeks, they're like, you're competent to proceed. I don't understand why your own public defender would label you competent to begin with. You seem to know the law better than most of us. I'm like, yeah, that's what I've been saying this whole time as I sat in that jail cell. And they put me in that jail cell. I didn't get an hour out. They put me in that jail cell, locked the door, they shut off the water, they refused to feed me. I didn't even have a shirt on my back, let alone all the commissary I bought and paid for 9 months. And they let me out of my cell, and they're like, okay, go to the next cell so we can clean the cell you've been in for a month and almost died in. And I said, no, I'm going downstairs, I'm going to the phone, I'm making a phone call, this is ridiculous. So they surround the common area with cops, and they tase me. Put me in the chair, put me in a cell, and I'm in that chair for hours. Strapped down, can't even move. For 9 months, over a BB gun. That's ridiculous. Nobody deserves that. This isn't the Dark Ages with dungeons and shit.
Yeah.
This is the 20th century, and we have rules and laws. We even have war laws. And they're committing war crimes in that fucking facility. War crimes. Like if the UN and the United Nations got a hold of this shit, got wind of this shit, The United Nations would have to come into our country and figure this shit out. Let alone our own government. And I'm pretty sure they would be pretty pissed to see what they're going on in that POW camp in the middle of our country. They're just doing whatever the fuck they want. And they act like there's no repercussions. Most of the people in that jail are in there for no reason. Like, there's one guy, he was in the cell next to me, and he's like, well, I got jumped by, like, 5 Mexicans, so I pulled a knife out, and they're arresting me because I pulled a knife out. I'm like, well, did you even use the knife? He's like, no, I pulled the knife out, and they ran away. And then they called the cops on me. I'm like, this is stupid. Why are they kidnapping everybody? And there was even a couple of cops in there, because, like, there are good cops, and then there's pigs, you know? There's an officer of the law, and then there's a squirrel, you know? And so the good cops, the ones that aren't rookies and have been doing this for a year, they're like, I don't understand how they keep getting away with this shit. I'm like, well, where are they getting all these people? And they're like, I'm asking the same question. And so even the cops can't even get it under control.
Yeah, they can't even have they don't have an explanation, can't figure it out.
Right. And there's just so many rookies because there's so many cops quitting because of this very shit that's going on all over the world.
Right.
And so it's just a bunch of rookies, and they're like, oh, I'm a cop. And it's like, no, you're just a deputy. You're not even a cop yet. You're a rookie. Chill out. And like all the sheriffs and stuff, like all the top ranks and stuff, and the sergeants, they're like, well, we can't even do anything about it because judges and attorneys and lawyers and shit don't want to talk to us. They think they're better than us, you know? We go up to them and they're like, this guy's been sitting in a jail cell for 9 months for no reason. And the judges look at them like, why are you talking to me, peasant? And that's the cops' words. That's not even my words. That's what the cops are telling me in there. And so I actually went online and I filed the motion to dismiss the case under the Constitution, right to a fast and speedy trial, my fucking Miranda rights that they read to you before they arrest you. And I had to fill it out and email it and stuff like that, and they made it so ridiculous that it's impossible to do it. So I just did it as best as I could and emailed it to them, and then I put on top of the PDF forms of the forms everything that I filled out so that they can actually read it, because the forms were stupid. But I'm sure they're not going to do anything. I'm going to have to go to court on the 23rd, and everybody's going to be like, what's going on? And the judge is going to say, I'm not familiar with this case. And it's like, well, then why are you judging it? And the DA wants to make me look like some kind of a mass murderer or something. And the BB gun wasn't even loaded. It didn't even have any pellets or CO2 in it. Nobody was even in harm's way. My little sister and her boyfriend, 21 years old, goes to Vegas for their 21st birthday. I've never even been to Vegas. She's been twice. She's my younger sister. Comes home from California. I'm trying to hang out with my sister by impressing her boyfriend with this BB gun. They're smoking weed in the garage. They panic and run down the street calling 911. I should have never been arrested to begin with. The cops should have said, oh, this is stupid. You can be on your way. It should have been that simple to begin with. Back in 2021 of August.
It's over a year ago.
Exactly. This is a year and a month over the arrest. And all the judges just like, continuance, I'll see you next month. And it's like, you guys should have settled this 6 months ago. This is stupid. I'm trying to get back to all this other shit I have to deal with. And I have to keep coming to your courtroom just to tell me that I got to come back next month. This is stupid. You guys aren't even saying a word in the courtroom. And then when I was in the jail cell, they'd come to me with a little tablet in front of my window. I can't even hear the judge because they won't even open the fucking door. And the judge just mutes me in my own court proceedings.
Mm-hmm.
She just mutes me so I can't say anything, and then I have to sit there and listen to her stupid muffled voice on a tablet behind plexiglass saying continuance next for 9 months. That's bullshit. Nobody deserves that. First of all, I didn't even commit a crime. Second of all, I'm not fucking guilty of anything.
Yeah.
And even if they pay off the jury, which other inmates were saying they were doing, like literally, an inmate came up to me and he's like, my public defender just called me. I was like, what happened? He's like, dude, she said that she caught the district attorney paying off the jury to find me guilty. And I'm like, that's not okay. So they made a kangaroo court in the middle of our country. They just rigged the game, tilted the table, so that they win all the cases. And I looked at the statistics of this facility. They get 110% conviction rate. How do you get 10% over 100%? That's physically impossible, let alone 100%. Everybody you arrest is not guilty. The cops are there to take control of the situation. The courtroom is there to figure out whether or not they deserve to go to prison or not.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're arrested doesn't mean that they actually did anything. The cops are stressed out enough, they can't worry about being the judge, executioner, and a cop. And it's just ridiculous. And I had a different judge every month this whole time, which is not legal. There's supposed to be one judge.
Right.
And he's supposed to know what the fuck's going on in his own courtroom.
Wow. Every hearing you get a different judge.
Every month it was a different judge. I was like, who is this? I'm like, this is your judge? He's like, no, it's not. The last one was a male. Did she have a sex change in a month? What the hell is going on in here?
Mm-hmm.
And then anytime I did say something, the judge would just say, I'm not familiar with your case. Well, what the fuck are you doing sitting in that chair then?
Mm.
And then you talk to the public defender, they ignore everything you say, they call you crazy, and dismiss everything as crazy. And it's like, this is legal shit. This isn't fucking games and shit. These are people's lives. And everybody that goes in that jail doesn't even get out before a year.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. Nobody deserves to sit in a holding cell for a year. Anything over 6 months, they go to prison. That's where the criminals go after they're found guilty. You don't sit in a holding cell surviving on crackers, wondering if you're even guilty or not. That's what jail is for, to figure out whether or not they deserve to go to prison or go back to their life. And none of this plea deal shit. Plea deals are completely unconstitutional. It literally states in the Constitution. Because I swore an oath in the Buckley Field Young Marines. The Colorado Buckley Field Young Marines, where Marines train kids from 8 to 18 how to be the future's leaders. That's like they're saying. And so I swore the oath, so I'm an oath keeper since I was 8. So I know the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And the Constitution literally states you cannot have a debtor's prison. And then you Google debtor's prison and stuff, and it says prison that you can't pay for. And that's not what a debtor's prison is. A debtor's prison is a prison that never ends. So if you do a crime and then you get a punishment of like a year in prison, and then after that year in prison, they give you another year in prison, that's a debtor's prison because it will never end. You will never pay off the punishment because they just keep adding to it. And that's what plea deals are. It's a punishment that never fucking ends for stupid shit. If you do or commit a crime, you get the punishment, you serve your time, and then it's not even supposed to show up on your record and shit anymore. You did your time. You learned your lesson. You paid for your mistakes. You owned up and went through the process of bettering yourself. You're not supposed to make someone a criminal their entire life so that they can't even get a job. And that's what's with all the homeless in Denver. I went down there before I went to DCSO because my grandma hired a homeless guy to help her with their yard, and I would take him down to Denver where he was living in a tent, in a shoulder-to-shoulder tent city. And I actually talked to these guys. I'm like, what the hell happened to you, man? And he's like, well, they arrested me and they charged me with all these felonies, and I can't get a fucking job or rent anything or do anything. And so I'm stuck in this tent taking a shower from a water bottle. I'm like, that's ridiculous, dude. And he's like, I would love to get a job. I would love to do something with my life. But then I can't. Nobody will hire a felon. It just pisses me off that I have to deal with this shit. This isn't my job, you know? It's not my job to micromanage the court system and the judicial system.
The system's supposed to be, like...
Right, you got the public defender as the defense, the attorney protecting the alleged victims and the state, and then the judge is supposed to be up there not being biased and trying to keep order in the court. While the jury is the judge. The jury's the real judge. They're the ones who find out whether or not you're guilty without a reasonable doubt. And even if that happens, you can still appeal it to another courtroom. This is how the judicial system works. Whatever they're doing in DCSO is literally the definition of a kangaroo courtroom. And it's ridiculous. That shit does not belong in America. And that's why our ancestors went from farming their fields to picking up muskets and driving out the redcoats from our country. And then writ the Constitution so this shit doesn't happen. And meanwhile, my grandma's still in the hospital. And I can't even think about it because I'm so overwhelmed with this court bullshit. I mean, if I get this felony, I can't pay my rent. I lose my housing voucher. So my life is fucked. I'm back on the streets. And my grandma's in the hospital. My dog fucking died this year. And I haven't seen my cat in a day. And then I got the office keep asking me for rent that I've already paid. And my mom calling the cops on me and trying to sabotage me every step of the way. And then lying about it. And the cops are at my door every fucking 5 minutes.
Because your mom's calling them? Or?
Welfare checks and noise complaints. That's the only reason they ever come to my door. And every time I tell them to get the fuck off my property and come back with a warrant. Every 5 minutes. And I get kicked out of my apartment every 6 months. My entire life, every 6 months, I gotta go find a new apartment. And I'm sick of it.
What do you think I mean, I get the maybe what's causing the welfare checks, but what do you think was causing the noise complaint calls?
I play music. I'm a musician. I'm loud. I'm Italian. And I know that, and I'll admit that. But I play my music from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
What pisses me off the most is like my last apartment, the first couple of days I move in. I wake up, I get in the shower, and this is the 4th of July, by the way. This is the 4th of July. There's fireworks going on all over the place. It's 12 noon in the middle of the day on a Saturday, I think it was. And I get a bang on the door. And I still got soap in my hair, so I grab my towel and I answer the door. 2 cops are in front of my door. And I'm like, what do you want? I'm taking a shower here. I'm like, you need to turn it down. I'm like, I'm in the shower. There's nothing on in here. Why don't you turn around and tell the fireworks to turn down? What's wrong with you? I slam the door and I go back into the shower. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. But they have to show up. And they're more pissed off than I am because they're showing up for a stupid noise complaint when they got better shit to do. So my neighbors just call noise complaints just to fuck with me. They call the 911 and then they go out in their lawn chairs and get some popcorn and watch the cops fuck with me. They do it for fun. And so does my mom. My mom starts it, she starts calling the cops on me for welfare checks, and then the neighbors figure out, oh, well, we can just get the cops to harass them for us. And I'll admit, I'm loud. I'm Italian. Came from an Italian family. We scream and yell. And the loudest one gets heard. That's how we do it. In our household. Growing up. I mean, my stepdad's a drummer. My biological dad's a guitar player. Their stepdads are saxophone players and drummers and shit. I come from a musical family. I can scream. I can sing high, I can sing low, play guitar, play bass, play drums. And I'm not going to shut up just because jealousy and envy run rampant around me 24/7. And I'd much rather have a cabin in the woods. But I can't afford that shit. Instead, I've been spending my whole life since 16 years old living in my car or a motel or an apartment every 6 months. And it's got to the point that it's just routine. And it doesn't even bother me anymore.
It's come to be expected.
Right. So I've just gotten to the point where I just don't care anymore. Like, oh, I gotta move to another cell. Okay, I'll just move over here then. Oh, I gotta move to another cell. Okay, this cell. I like the last cell better, but this one's alright, I guess. I mean, in between, I'm in mental hospitals and jails. I've been to every mental hospital and every jail in the state, yet I have a diagnosis of PTSD and I've never been charged with anything. This is stupid. And every time I go to the mental hospital, all the mental health staff, except for the med doctors, of course, they're all like, why are you here again, Vinny? And I'm like, I don't know. You work here. I thought you would tell me. They're like, you don't need to be here anymore. We wish you would just leave. And I'm like, yeah, I got a cat to feed. I'd like to go home, too. But the cops put you on those M1 holds, and you're there for 2 days to 2 weeks. Depending on the medicine doctor. And then I go to these jails and they arrest me for all this stupid shit. And they're like, oh, I guess we shouldn't have arrested you. Okay, no harm, no foul. Bye, see you next time. They can't even charge me with anything, which is technically false imprisonment. So, I should be rich by now. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
just processing. Yeah, just. No, it's just like systems. Feels like the system's actively working against you.
It's me against the world. I feel like Tupac sometimes.
Hmm.
And anybody who's ever even remotely nice to me ends up dying. I mean, like, one or more people die every year on me.
Hmm.
At least one person dies every year. My entire life. And then I try and tattoo their names on my back so I can remember them. And this fucking cocksucker tattoos a penis cross on my back. And I can't even sue him. And he charged me $1,000 to do it. And I was in that tattoo chair for 12 hours straight. At times, I don't even think he was using ink anymore. Just because he thought I was a dick because I kept telling him, I don't like it. Redo it. Because he was freehanding it like a dumbass. So he finally does one, and I'm like, alright, that's alright. Like, all I'm asking is for you to do an outline of a cross around the names. I'm like, that's alright. So, because he's taking a picture with his phone and showing me this is what I want, and he draws it with a Sharpie.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally agree with one. And before I show up, he said $200. Because I told him, I don't have much money. I'm just asking for an outline of a cross over these names. I usually spend $60 a name. And so, he tacks to the fucking tattoo. I haven't even seen it yet after it's done. He takes my credit card, charges it, and I get home, I see a fucking penis cross on my back, and $1,000 out of my fucking account with overdraft fees. And so I start texting him, I'm like, what the fuck did you do, dude? He's like, oh, well, that's what you asked for. I was like, that is not the picture you showed me. And then I go on my computer, take a picture in the mirror with my computer camera on my laptop, and then I draw lines over the ends of the cross. I'm like, it's a fucking penis. And I show him the picture. He's like, yeah, it does look like a penis. I'm like, the fuck's wrong with you, dude? People die over shit like that. What is wrong with you? That's a permanent injury. And so I go to the tattoo removal. They're asking $5,000 in over 2 years of treatments. Just to get it removed. And then I'd have to re-tattoo it. So now I'm stuck with it. Fucking penis cross on my back over the names of my dead loved ones. And now I don't even want to continue the rest of the names. This isn't even half of the fucking names on there. I used to show people this tattoo and they're like, oh, I got more dead people than that. I'm like, I don't have enough money for all the names. This is the first 10 years. And I even get a second tattoo on my arm of the Bible verse Matthew 23, woe to you teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. And I get home and there's a fucking J where the L should be. So it says teachers of the jaw. And I text her and I'm like, what did you do? She's like, oh, I must have messed up. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's a big mistake. So I'm like, how the fuck are the tattoo shops even against me? And that's why I branded my hands. Because I'm trying to do my own tattoos. Because I can't even trust people to fucking do what I pay them to do.
Yeah, literally. Feels like every situation. It's like,
And my family's the worst part of it. My mother is the worst part of all of this. She's been trying to kill me my whole life. That's why I left when I was 16. I bought the car from my mom and I said bye. I never looked back. I lived in my car for a year. And at the same time, I went to high school and Pickens Technical College in Aurora. So I would drive to Parker, Ponderosa. Actually, I would park in the parking lot across the street and sleep there. Then I'd go to Ponderosa. Then I'd drive all the way down to Aurora, go to Pickens Technical College for electrician, and then drive to Subway so I can pay for my gas, and then go to a truck stop or something when I needed to take a shower, and then I'd drive all the way the fuck back to Parker and go to sleep in a parking lot for a year. And then I go to my first mental hospital because of the mental breakdown, and I lose everything when I come outside. They fired me from Subway. They kicked me out of Pickens because I was only getting 60% on the written test because I'm severely dyslexic, even though I'm getting 100% on the physical test where I actually do it. So they kicked me out. I know they really kicked me out because I've been electrocuted in that school twice. And they just don't want to get sued. That's why they really kicked me out. Even though I don't have any fucking money to sue anybody. And then Ponderosa kicks me out because they're saying I'm not showing up enough. I'm like, well, dude, I have to drive to Aurora every day and then go to work. I can't sit in your high school all day listening to you try and tell me about how Columbus discovered America. He didn't. He enslaved the people that were already living here. And then during the winter, or during the summer, when I'm out of school and shit, I would go work construction with my family's summer construction, erosion control. So I'd be a fucking ditch digger. For a year I did that. And then I had a mental breakdown. At 16. And in between Parker and Aurora, the cops are writing me speeding tickets constantly. And I only got $5,000 for working a whole summer with my family's construction company. Because they're like, oh, you got to get paid under the table, so we can't give you the full money. I was like, no, you should be giving me more money. And what is $5,000? You work a year of construction, you get above minimum wage. This is stupid. And then my mom just takes the $5,000. Oh, that pays for the car. Any money I make over my SSI, my mom just takes. And then every time I go to the mental hospital or jail because she called the cops on me, she goes through all of my shit and throws away anything she doesn't think I need. Even though I buy it with my own money. She even goes through my pictures that I draw and throws away and burns the pictures that she doesn't think I need. And then I even know this because I scan all my pictures that I draw onto the computer so I can have a copy of it. And then I'm going through my pictures, I'm like, well, where's this one? Where's this one? Where's this one? And the best thing she can come up with is, oh, you must have misplaced it. You must have lost it. Must be you, not me. Because she can never own up to a single thing she does to me. As she lies to everybody about how good of a mother she is. And she does everything for me. And she buys everything for me. And she pays for everything for me. When the only thing in this entire apartment that she's paid for is this Goodwill couch that was $50 and the TV that was maybe $100. Even though she owes me all my stimulus check money. I gave her all my stimulus check money for that fucking car that has already been impounded twice and long gone by now. And I Blue Book valued it, and that car is worth $200. Plus it had a failing transmission. So I know that the courts that impounded my car, they sure as hell didn't sell it. Nobody would have bought a $200 car at an auction with a failing transmission. Even if they knew that failing transmission was there or not, they would never pay over $200, and you don't sell a car for $200 at an auction.
Mm-hmm.
So they impounded my car twice. Once for the DUI that got dropped because there was no drugs in my system, and then a second time for this BB gun case. So I know they just straight up scrap metaled it, even though I could have fucking used it, along with everything I had in the car, which was most of my shit because I just got evicted. So every 6 months I got to start over from scratch.
Mm-hmm. It feels like, you can't get any momentum going, and pursuing other things just because you're having to constantly start over.
Right, like the second I get traction, that's when everybody shows up to take all my shit away. And I never graduated high school, and I can't get the fucking GED because I'm dyslexic. Even though I went to high school for 8 years. 8 years I went to high school. I should be a doctor right now. And after 8 years, I'm 21 years old, still going to high school, and then going to work and paying my bills at the apartment. And they have the nerve and the audacity to tell me I didn't show up enough to graduate. I'm like, I've been here 8 years. That kid over there graduated in 2 years. So I go to online school. I can't figure it out. I can't fucking read it. I don't know what you want me to do. So I try to get my GED, and after $1,100, because it's $300 just to take it, so $1,000 later, I'm like, fuck this. I'm going back to work. I got bills to pay. And I've been on SSI since I was 17. And it's the only reason I even have an apartment. Otherwise, I would be on the streets my whole life. And every time I go to work, I make less money. I make more money sitting on my ass than going to work and doing everybody's job for them and getting a fraction of the pay. So I can't even go to college. I can't even try to get a career. The best thing I got, the best chance I got is construction or fast food. Construction would be the best career I could get, and fast food would be the best job I can get.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting in my apartment thinking, well, why the fuck even do it? Why the fuck even try? When I'm just gonna lose everything anyway.
Yeah, because it feels like the pattern that's just going to repeat itself over and over again.
Right, and the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing, expecting different results. And it's like, well, I gotta try something different then, obviously. Even though there's nothing else there. I'm not a part of society. I'm refused by society. And it pisses me off. You know, when I was a kid, I never wanted to be rich and famous. I didn't want to take over the world and all that shit. I wanted a normal life like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a wife and kids and a family and a fucking house and a career and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And now I got 2 dead girlfriends, and I grieved over both of them in the same jail cell that somebody died in. And last time it was over Facebook harassment. They put me in the same jail cell 10 years ago at 18 over Facebook harassment. Because I was cussing out the girlfriend I was going out with for cheating on me with everybody when I should have been going out with the girl that killed herself. And that was just a misdemeanor. So it doesn't even show up on my record. Nobody even gives a fuck. And who goes to jail for a year over a misdemeanor?
Right. It doesn't add up, yeah. An unloaded BB gun, yeah.
And so I got the cops after me, plus the criminals. I mean, when I was in my early 20s, around 21 and stuff, after I got out of high school, I get my first apartment from going motel to the car and back and forth. And I started drinking with this Pyru guy. And I later find out he's a white boy killer. And he roofies me with a bottle of vodka, gang date rapes me for a few weeks, and sells me to a cartel for a month. As the Aurora Police Department stands outside the door of the trap house laughing. Every time they were called, because I'm screaming and yelling, they show up to the front door laughing, and then they leave. So I have to bust out of a fucking human trafficking ring with my own bare fists and walk my happy ass home on my bare feet. Only to show up in my rented basement of my grandma a month after this for the SWAT team to bust down my fucking walls and take me to the fucking mental hospital for a year. Like, oh, where were you?
What's that?
Like, oh, where were you? Like, the shit happened down the fucking street. Where were you over there? You can bust down my walls, but you can't bust down the walls I almost died in? Then I'm the crazy one. And then everybody just waves it off, dismisses it as crazy. I'm just making it all up. Even though I have the scars all over me to prove it all. Physical scars. I have a goddamn zipper on my head. And I didn't go through brain surgery.
I wanted to. Have you has there been any developments regarding? I know you were trying to get some of your paperwork from the Community Reach Center about your diagnosis and getting that.
Oh yeah, I did finally get that from my public defender, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And at the last couple of pages, it does state that I am PTSD. It says PTSD and like severe depression or something, then alcohol dependency and marijuana dependency is my final diagnosis. And I don't understand why I have all these new diagnoses all over again, even though I'm competent in court. Like, how can I be delusional but still be competent enough to go to court? It's like the judicial system and the mental health system are starting to contradict each other now. About my place in the world. And I don't even want to bother talking to the med doctor. These med doctors, they diagnose you with whatever they need to prescribe you. It's not even about your mental health anymore. It's about the prescription and the money.
Mm.
And these med doctors, they're like, oh, he's just a counselor, or oh, that's just a case man, or they just talk. And it's like, well, they're doing more for my mental health than all your stupid drugs. I'd rather go in the back alley and get some marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they went to school a little bit longer. They think they're better. And it's like, you're not an actual doctor. You gotta go to school for 8 years for that shit. You're a little bit above a nurse. And the nurses help me more than you, doctor. Because I've been diagnosed with every diagnosis under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
A different mental health doctor, a different diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go to these mental hospitals and stuff, everybody's diagnosed with the same thing. How is that possible? You go to a different mental hospital, everybody's diagnosed with the same thing, but it's a different diagnosis. It's a physical improbability. And PTSD is the only one I've ever agreed with. I always thought PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, meant soldiers and shit that went to war. And then Kelly's the one that told me, no, it means that you've been through traumatic shit. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because I do have flashbacks, and I have flashback nightmares. I wake up screaming and yelling and swinging. Because I'm reliving the same shit 10 years ago. And I've never hurt anybody, ever. Not even emotionally. I mean, my tongue is more dangerous than both of my fists.
Mm-hmm.
I've never raised my hand to anybody. I've never needed to. I'm bigger than everybody. There's no reason for me to fight you.
When's your next? Do you know when your next court date is? I mean, it sounds like you haven't. Your appellate defender really hasn't even been communicating with you at all. But do you know even like
Yeah, it's the 23rd.
the 23rd,
Yeah, September 23rd, 2022.
the Friday?
You know. And she has been calling me and stuff, but there's nothing left for me to say to her. I've said literally everything to her. She didn't hear a word of it, so forget it. There's nothing else to talk about. I'll see you at court so I can officially fire you. You can argue with me about firing you, but go ahead and argue with the judge. Good luck. I feel like they're going to charge me with this shit in their kangaroo court. I'm going to have to appeal it, which means I have to hire an appeal lawyer while I'm sitting in their jail in order to ever get anywhere with this. They sure as hell ain't going to send me to prison. In prison, I might actually get someone to help me. I've never even been to prison. But yeah, I've served harder time than most of these prisoners. I mean, the worst punishment they can give you is the hole. And that's all I know.
Well, yeah, you were in one for 9 months, yeah.
Well, that's how the
I
Aurora
don't
jail
know.
is. The one across the street from the theater shooters. The theater shooting. That I've been in that jail too. They're all locked down 24/7. I don't understand how they get away with that.
I don't mean to cut us off, but we're up on our time for today. I wanted to see what times work for you generally. Like, what is a good time?
Yeah.
Like afternoon or morning or
I like it after 12.
after 12?
Yeah, it just works the best for me.
Okay. Could you do like 1 o'clock on Thursday?
This Thursday?
No,
Next
the
Thursday?
week from tomorrow, the
Yeah.
29th.
Yeah, I can do that. How do you spell Thursday?
THUR.
That's fine. And then,
Yeah.
what's the date?
September 29th.
And then at 1 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And would you like to do that over the phone, or we could do in person?
Yeah, probably over the phone, because I'm not sure what's going to happen to this court stuff. I might go to prison, so.
Okay, yeah. We'll just do, we'll plan on the phone then. And then if you need anything before then, just give me a call, okay?
Alright. Thank you.
You're welcome, Vinny. I'll talk to you next week.
Alright, see you, man.
See ya.